Hello everyone and welcome to another Gwent defense guide on channel Duello. For those who are not familiar with my channel, let me try to explain what a defense guide is. Well, in these videos I'll be making suggestions to play against popular meta decks in Gwent. First, I'll introduce the deck, its strength and weaknesses, main threats, play around cards, macro and micro strategies, and then we'll discuss each faction and how they fare against this deck. And finally, I'll be showing you video footage from sample games. So if you're struggling against these decks, Keltullis deck, hopefully you'll get better playing against it. This defense guide features Master's Keltullis deck with Carapace leader ability, as I mentioned earlier. And as you see in the title here, this deck is especially a popular choice in tournaments thanks to its strength on blue coin and having the advantage of knowing your opponent's deck list. It is also one of the most popular monsters deck in ranked play, even though it got a recent nerf. But I think this deck is here to stay as long as Keltullis card stays alive in this game, because she is really a game-winning card that you need to build your deck around. So why is Kelly that strong? First, let's examine the card itself. Okay. So Keltullis affects both players. Every allied turn on turn end, destroy the lowest unit on the side with the most units. So the owner of Keltullis is important. At the end of that turn, the game checks how many units each opponent has, and according to that, if suppose player A has 2 units and player B has 3 units on the board, player B will sacrifice the lowest unit they have to Keltullis. So Keltullis doesn't like other units, apparently. If the number of the units are the same, nothing happens. So as long as Keltullis is on the board, at the end of, let's say, Keltullis owner's turn, the game will check the number of units. On the opponent's turn, it really doesn't matter. So it's gonna happen every turn, let's say. So the opponent should build a deck around this card, and that shouldn't be a swarm deck, apparently. Because otherwise they're gonna sacrifice their own units. So they have to be careful. And in order to do that, the deck will have some boost cards and not many unit cards, obviously. And another important thing is this card should stay on melee row. So it is a row locked card. So you can move it, lock it, poison it. You can do a lot of things, actually. So why is that card that important if you have plenty of answers to Keltullis? Well, the answer is Carapace leader ability. Carapace leader ability has 3 charges, and with each card you boost a unit by 2, but while you're boosting it, you're also given that unit a Veil. Veil is one of the newer abilities. If the unit has Veil on it, you can't give status to it. Suppose you poisoned it, the opponent, puts Veil on it, you can't poison it the second time, or you can't lock it. So the Carapace leader ability helps the Keltullis owner with poisons and locks. You still can use toll removal cards or other damage cards, but the other damage cards are probably not enough, because her power is 9. 9 is really big, and you cannot deal with it easily. So you need a removal like Heatwave or any other toll unit cards. You can move it, but the deck uses a defender. So the defender protects Kelly and other engines. Okay, let's move to the list actually and see what other cards are. How do you build a deck around Keltullis? Well, as I said, Cave Troll is the defender. That is really important. Not only Troll protects the Keltullis, he also protects other engines, and we're going to talk about the engines as well. And other than that, as you see, there aren't many units. There are a lot of removal spells here, and also some boost spells like Pact or Adrenaline Rush. So these spells will help you to keep your engines safe. And other than that, you're not putting a lot of units on the board, so that when you play Keltullis, you will always have less number of units than your opponent. So that's the idea. The gold package is pretty much standard. I mean, at the time I'm shooting, everyone is using the same list with the same gold cards for like 5 or 6 months maybe. Well, as the new cards come out, we will probably see some changes. But right now, this is the most standard version. You have Oneiromancy to look for a crucial card that you're missing. We have Heatwave as a toll removal card and also destroy scenarios. We have Yigern and Azrael combo because you need high-powered units. We have Siridash to draw an extra card, and Siridash is actually a really crucial card, which we'll talk about a bit later. And we have another toll removal card in Imler's Wrath. Since we have plenty of high-powered units, Imler's Wrath is really useful, especially with Yigern. And the deck is also running Nithral, Beast, and Aperian Phantom. Those are really 3 powerful engines, and they need to be individually dealt with. And it's not that easy to do, especially when you put Veil on Nithral. I mean, that becomes a really powerful engine, and I mean, will hit your units. And if the opponent has dominance, and it's gonna hit by 2 every turn, so that's really powerful and really oppressive. And Beast is always a really big threat, and Aperian Phantom is similar, and Phantom also has Veil on it, so they don't need to use the leader ability on it. Other than that, this deck is running Parasites, Natural Selections, so those are also additional damage cards to deal with opponent's engines. And the deck is running Maxi. Maxi is for deck manipulation. In addition to Oneiromancy, they are using this. It really helps with the order of cards. And then there are some... The bronze package, I mean, keeps changing depending on the meta. But some of them are, I mean, being used in every Keltullis version, like a single copy of Adrenaline Rush and 2 copies of Pact, because the deck needs those. And Taskmaster is also popular. You need to purify defenders and sometimes purify yourself, but most of the times you're going to need it for offensive purify. Spores, again a meta call. If there are a lot of boosted units in the meta, Spores is really helpful, a single copy of it, because you have Oneiromancy to draw it if necessary. And Folktale is... I mean, as you see in this version, there are 2 copies of Folktale, because at the time I'm shooting this video, Araka Swarm is really popular, so Folktale really helps with that cause. But other than that, because since the deck is not running a lot of units, Folktale will be really helpful, because when it comes into play, it damages all of the units by 1. So most of the time, the opponent will have more units than you, than the owner of Keltullis. And a single copy of Squirrel to remove stuff from the graveyard, and 2 copies of Wild Hound. After this card got a buff, it has really become an important bronze card in this deck, because the deck is trying to always gain dominance, and with the help of the leader ability, they will always have dominance. So as long as you have dominance, Wild Hound will boost itself by 1. So that's also really goes well with this deck. I think this is a really solid deck. I mean, there are many interactions between them, but as I said, as new cards come out, I mean, some cards will rotate itself in and out. And I don't think this deck is a tier 1 deck right now, especially on ranked gameplay or on ladder. I mean, there are many surprises, and everybody kind of knows this deck list, and everybody knows the cards that the Carapace player will play, and you may not be, let's say, prepared for some, let's say, I mean, you're seeing some weird tech choices in some decks. So since it is not a tournament, you don't know what your opponent is playing. So I think the strength of Keltullis is a bit lower compared to tournaments. Okay, so this is this deck list. What about other inclusions? I mean, some people are running Strays of Spala and this Golem to move our Keltullis back to melee row. Because, I mean, some decks will be running move cards, and your Keltullis will be moved to range row, and then you can move it back. So this could be a pretty good inclusion. But, you know, in order to add this DAO, you need to remove probably Nithral, and Nithral is really a great card. I wouldn't recommend at all. And some decks are running bombs, a couple of bombs like these, the Dimeterium bomb and this, I forgot the name. I mean, they deal damage to each other. They're okay, but I think, well, I mean, in this version there are more units than usual instead of running these two bombs. But you could always go with these two bombs and, you know, get rid of Forktails if there aren't many swarm decks. And this was more popular a couple of months ago. I mean, Foglet is really a pretty good consume card, Deathwish card, and you can consume it with Endrago Warrior, and then the other copy of Foglet comes out, and your deck is getting thinned out, and you can draw into your better cards easily. But I mean, this deck is running Maxi, so she kind of helps with that cause. And Drago Warrior is pretty good actually. You can consume your own cards and reduce the number of units you have on the board. But right now it's better to run Wild Hound instead of these two. But anyway, it is still a possibility. Well, I mean, the deck guide is actually not for Keltullis players, obviously, but I mean, for those who are trying to defend against Keltullis. But you need to know every card possible in this deck. So in addition to this, you should keep in mind that the opponent could be running those cards and you should play around them. So what are the main threats in this deck? Well, obviously Keltullis is the main threat here. So you need to always have an answer. What if my opponent plays Keltullis? What am I going to do? You should always keep that in mind and save your, say, answer for Keltullis. Because if Keltullis stays on the board, you're pretty much screwed. I mean, you can win against Keltullis, but it is not easy. I mean, I can easily say that. The second threat, the biggest second threat is Siri Dash. Siri Dash will give the owner of Keltullis card advantage. If Siri Dash stays on the board for 4 turns, the owner of Siri will draw an additional card, and that is huge in game of Gwent. And Nithral is really strong as long as the owner has dominance. I mean, Nithral will hit for 2, and I mean, he could easily wipe out the board. I wouldn't say wipe out, but, you know, let's say you will have really bad time against it. And actually, Cave Troll, the defender card, is not a threat, but he protects other threats like Siri, Nithral, Keltullis, and there are also other engines. So there are a lot of things to defend here. And you need to remove it, and this guy has 4 armor on it with 7 power, I guess. So it is not easy to remove that. So if you have a Purify, please save it for Cave Troll. What about the other engines? Well, Beast keeps boosting himself by 2 as long as there is a high-powered unit. So this is already a powerful and popular card in many monsters deck, but in this deck, it's really a perfect fit. And Furion Phantom is similar. It boosts itself by 1, and it does it every turn, so you don't need to have dominance or a big powered unit. And there is also 3 damage attached to it, and it has Whale. So this guy is really hard to get removed. So the 5 power, 5 damage cards cannot remove it. And Wild Hound is also, I mean, getting benefit from having dominance. And the deck owner can gain dominance immediately with using a leader ability. So keep that in mind. And this card can really become huge. I mean, originally it has 3 power with 4 provision card, but at the end of the round, this guy can go up to 8 or 9 power easily. So again, I mean, this card needs to be dealt with, but as you see, there are a lot of cards that you need to deal with. So I think this is the lowest priority, but still, if you have the answer, like 4 damage or something like that, you can use it on Wild Hound, obviously. So I mentioned about Siri-Dash card advantage. What does she do? Well, after 4 allied turns, on turn end, draw a card. As you see, she is only 5 powered, so she can die to a lot of 5 damage spells. But with leader ability, you can boost her power up to 7 with using only 1 leader ability chart. So she will be relatively safe from damage cards with having 7 power. But they can't protect it from Lux because Carapace only gives Veil to monster units. And it wasn't like that about a month ago. So that's the nerf I'm talking about here. And it kind of changes things. And the thing that you need to know about this card is you can sometimes pass and the opponent can't draw its card. So there will be a counter at the bottom of this card, so you need to pay attention to that. If the opponent is on blue coin, they can immediately start with Cave Troll and then put Siri Dash next to it. And then no matter what you do, they will draw their cards if you can't find answers for both Defender and Siri Dash. And it is really hard to do that. And they are always running Crystal Skull as stratagem. I mean, if they predict what your deck is, they can immediately start with Siri Dash, especially on red. I mean, they can't do it on red coin, obviously, because they will not have Crystal Skull, so there's the risk of getting locked. But if they are on blue coin, they can immediately boost her with Crystal Skull, and you can't lock it. So that really eliminates some of the answers that you plan to, to do on Siri. So she's difficult to deal with, but not impossible. But the thing is, okay, you dealt with Siri, but maybe you used an important removal card on Siri and you have no answer left for Keltullis. So sometimes you're facing a dilemma like that. So it's really difficult to play against Keltullis decks. So you need to really plan ahead and think like, okay, I'm going to use this on Kelly, I'm going to use this on Siri, I'm going to use this on Cave Troll. And if Nithral goes through, okay, I have nothing. And that's really a common case because you would not have all the answers to everything here. And while doing that, you also need to protect your own cards because the deck runs a lot of removal cards. So you need to play around them. For example, a single heat wave. You can't do much about it. I mean, they're gonna, let's say, pick the best target for a heat wave. So if the heat wave is used on a, let's say, average card of yours, you're happy. Parasite is important, so always pay attention to 6 power. So if you're playing something with 6 or less power, keep in mind that it could die to Parasite. Imler's Wrath is a unique card. They need to have a high-powered unit to use Imler's Wrath. And especially Ygern is ideal for that. They can always use, let's say, leader ability on Cave Troll or something like that, and they use the Imler's Wrath to kill one of your precious high-powered units. So that's also another intimidating card. So winning Dominus War is important. And there's also some small bronze damage cards. Natural Selection is in every Keltullis deck, so 4 damage is what Natural Selection does. So pay attention to that while you're paying attention to Parasite. The bombs are not popular, but you can expect some bombs. And they're also running Ygern Ozrel combo, the classic monsters combo, especially in the first 2 rounds. If they are able to play their Ygern, they will consume it with Ozrel in the final round, probably on the final, very last play. And that's placed for 14 points. And if they are playing a short round, that's really important. I mean, hard to compete with. And the main strategy of Keltullis is actually winning the first round and then trying to bleed with Keltullis and then play a, let's say, 3-card short round with Ozrael combo and, win the game, something like that. So that's their main strategy. And if they can, they will try to win uneven in the first round, thanks to Siri Dash. So as you see, this is really a difficult deck to deal with. And they also are running some protection cards. They also help with having less units on the board, like Adrenaline Rush and Pact, even though their units will get taller and taller, and if you have toll removal, maybe you can save it so that they use their Rush or Pact on it, and then you remove it. And these are their tech cards. Squirrel for graveyard removal, and this is for swarm decks, and for purifying defenders and some stuff like that. So expect these cards to come into play, especially if you're running a swarm deck. I mean, this Forktail can come and, ruin your day. So what will be your macro strategy against playing Keltullis, no matter what faction you're running? You should make sound decisions during your mulligan stage, just like playing against every deck, but this deck is even more important because first round is crucial. They won't, let's say, hesitate to play their strong cards in first round. I mean, if possible, they will try to play their Beast, Phantom, Nithral in the first round. If they have the Defender, they will play their Siri to gain card advantage. And it's really difficult to deal with that in the first round because you will probably have most bronzes. So if you want to win the first round, I mean, maybe you should keep your gold cards, especially if you have a Purify card. Do not send it back because you're gonna need it, and most probably in the first round. And after that, if Siri Dash does not go through or the opponent couldn't draw Siri, you should make sure to win first round because Siri Dash is really important for them. If they're missing it, and if you already answered it, you should make sure to win first round. And I wouldn't say do not overcommit, but I mean, committing some of your goals is really important to make sure you get the first round and then bleed out Keltullis in the second round. And if you have all the answers and you're sure that you can win the long round, yeah, sure, you can dry pass and try to compete with Keltullis, especially if you're running Nilfgaard. You can do that maybe because you'll probably have a lot of answers for Keltullis and Defender and so on. But if you're not sure, it is really a good idea to bleed out Keltullis. If Siri Dash goes through, well, you're in trouble. Try not to lose uneven cards, because with Siri Dash, they're going to get an extra card. And to compete with that, you need to make a lot of points. And to do that, probably you need to overcome it and use some of the precious gold cards you have. And I mean, not losing uneven is important, obviously. And if you guarantee that, you can pass, and then they will start to bleed you, and make sure that you have the necessary cards to defend the bleed attempt. If losing uneven is inevitable, and it happens a lot, so don't feel bad about it, I would really suggest you to accept your fate and save your good cards to defend the bleed. I mean, if you're running, playing a uphill battle, and I mean, you're behind like 10 points or so, and you're gonna lose uneven, it's really pointless to keep, playing your gold cards and trying to catch up with them. Just accept it and play uneven and defend the bleed, I guess. And sometimes you can win. Especially if you're running a lot of units, like some tokens and stuff, and you have like unit generators and so on, and it is possible to keep up with Kelly. I mean, if you're good enough and have a sacrifice for Kelly every turn, it is possible to win the round. What about micro strategy? I mean, in-game, let's say, detailed decisions. You should always save your Purify card for Cave Troll. I mean, suppose you're running a Cupbearer, do not try to poison units. I mean, Cupbearer is for purifying Defender, Cave Troll. I mean, the same goes for all factions, obviously. If you have Purify card, save it for Cave Troll no matter what. Because, I mean, if you used it and Cave Troll comes, and Cave Troll is really difficult to deal with. If you have luck cards or a card, I would suggest it to use it for the Beast, because Keltullis player, if that player is smart enough and they suspect you have luck, they will use the leader ability, Carapace, and you can't lock it. So if the Beast is, I mean, they will not try to veil Beast, because I mean, you do not want to boost Beast, because Beast boosts itself by 2 every turn, and if it gets too tall, it will stop boosting itself by 2, so the engine will stop. So they wouldn't prefer using Keltullis leader, Carapace leader ability and beast, so it will stay unveiled and you can lock it easily. And if you have some toll punish, make sure that you have a single one reserved for Keltullis and after the cave troll, obviously. If you don't have answer for cave troll, I mean, maybe that toll punish will go to cave troll and Keltullis will go through and ruin your day. And if you have move cards, the obvious choice is for Keltullis, but sometimes you can play it for Nethral, and if you have an additional toll punish, use it on Keltullis. So again, planning is really important. So what card is for what threat? And try to win the domination war, because the Hound will get bigger if you don't have dominance. It is not easy to do it, but it is possible. Again, Imler's Wrath is important. If they have, let's say, if they have the dominance, Imler's Wrath will kill any unit you have, unless it has shield on it. And these are your best friends, actually. These cards are ideal against playing Keltullis, like the Vanilla Geralt will immediately kill Keltullis. Even if it has Veil on it. Geralt Yrden could be, really good, but if the opponent is careful and dividing the units on 2 rows, and Yrden could maybe not be enough for you. Purify in general is really good against Cave Troll. Heatwave is really important against the Defender or Keltullis. Spores could be valuable because they will be running Adrenaline Rushes and Pacts. And again, for Ozrel, this is really good, resetting a unit. And for faction specific, you can run Baron or Morkwark, Heart of Terror. They are really pretty good because they will have boosted units. Invocation is great for Nilfgaard, but if you're invocating Keltullis, make sure that you play Keltullis on your range row, not melee row, because that will not be good for you at all. Because you will start sacrificing your own units because the Keltullis player will have less units than you. Curse of Corruption could be really good because they will have lots of tall units. Locks are good but not great because leader ability will prevent you from locking them. And move cards like Strays of Spala or other faction move cards, again, are pretty good, but sometimes you need to have 2 move cards, and having 2 move cards could be bad against other decks. So that's really a hard call. Okay, so that's it for the deck and general strategies. Let's move to factions, and shortly let's talk about each faction and which cards are really good against Keltullis and which cards are bad and so on. Okay. Okay, now we're on Gwent deck screen, deck builder screen, and let's discuss each faction with, let's say, talking about popular decks and some choices. Okay, let's start with Skellige. Suppose you're running a Skellige Warriors deck. They keep, depending on the meta, the leader ability is changing. So right now, Blaze of Glory is really popular. Well, typically, Skelligers prefers to play their bronze cards on first round because their gold cards are usually have veteran ability and they don't want to run it on first round, so they get better in the final round. That's why they prefer to play their weaker bronze cards in the first round and try to win the first round, and it is really difficult to do that against Keltullis. So I would say this is really a bad matchup for them, and especially if they start with Defender. Skellige does not have a Purify unit to deal with it immediately, so they need to, let's say, build their graveyard, prepare their graveyard, and suppose that if they have Hjalmar, Hjalmar will remove Greatsword and kill the defenders, but it needs setup. So if they immediately start with defender, there isn't really much anything they can do, and Siri Dash will go through, and then the rest is really bad for them. So that's the main problem. Other than that, Morkwark Heart of Terror is obviously great for boosted units like Ozrel, and Ygern will not survive a lot because they have lots of damage units and so on, and not Neutral Ygern. So they have plenty of answers for some of the other, let's say, threats like Beast maybe. and but Siridash and Defender and sometimes Keltullis is really difficult for them to deal with. There is a really high chance that Skellige can lose uneven and they will get bled by Keltullis and lose to them in the final short round with Ozrael, and they will not have the answer to that because Keltullis player will play the last card. But if the opponent, I mean, if the Skellige player is really smart and making really good choices, it is possible to win against Keltullis. So, I mean, Warriors deck is overall, I mean, is stronger than Keltullis in my opinion. But it's not an easy matchup at all. And what are the other Skellige choices? I mean, you could play, let me check if I have, I mean, Patricidal Fury is similar, so there's no need to talk about that. Battle Trance is an option if you're playing a Mushroom deck with Gedinith and so on. This deck isn't a Devotion deck, so the deck has access to Korathi Heatwave, so Heatwave is really important here. And it is possible to protect your own scenario from their Heatwave. So it is possible to compete with Keltullis if you're running a Battle Trance deck, but you need to draw really well because it's not as consistent as a Warrior deck. But I mean, it is possible to win against Keltullis, I guess. And I mean, the deck is running Gramist, so the Warriors version isn't running Gramist, so Gramist could really help out a lot. But there is no way to tutor Gramist, so you need to draw him. And what about Scoia'tael? Scoia'tael has plenty of options right now, but none of them are really great against Keltullis. Well, right now, Eldain trap decks are popular. And this could really work well against Keltullis because there's lots of removal, especially Serpent Trap is gonna help a lot because it works like right now. What was that called? Manticore, the monsters card. You can immediately destroy the enemy unit with the lowest power, and since they are running, let's say, not many units on the board, their lowest power will be actually a high power unit, so you can immediately destroy any threat with Serpent Trap, like the Defender or something like that. Other than that, there's Heat Wave. Pitfall Trap could come in handy if you're running luck. Sometimes that could help, and Feign Death. With Feign Death, yeah, you will have lots of elves, and if they play Keltullis, you can compete with that. You can sacrifice your elves every turn and so on. So I think this is not a bad matchup. If you're running a classic Deadeye Ambush with Swarm, movement, and so on, a little bit less on control and traps, it is also possible to compete with that, but you need Searan and other move cards. And again, don't forget you need 2 move cards. One for Defender and another one for Keltullis. If you're running a lot of elves, actually, you can run Sappers and use a leader charge to purify the Cave Troll. So there's that purify option if you're running a classic Deadeye Ambush deck. And what about other Skellige choices? Nature's Gift. Well, this is a Devotion deck, and they are not running toll removal. It is a big problem because of that. But the Nature's Gift first round is really powerful, so it is possible to win first round even with Siridash. And the opponent, Keltullis opponent, will have a lot of answers for your units. So make sure that, let's say, your Hamadrytes do not get a lot bigger. Because, I mean, if you keep boosting only one unit after one unit, I mean, let's say divide the strength into multiple units. Because there is a good chance that that Hamadryte will get heat waved. So pay attention to that. Other than that, if Keltullis stays on the board, Nature's Gift Leader ability could help you with that. Because as long as you play nature spells, Treants will get spawned and their power will be 1, 2, or 3 or something like that. And it is totally possible to, sacrifice them each turn. And actually, I will have a sample game for you to check it out. You can see that. And other than that, again, the same thing goes. for other elf decks, you need to have a movement card, luck card to deal with Defender and Keltullis and so on. And other Squirtle decks, if you're running Dwarves, you should play Non-Devotion and just run Heatwave and pray that you Heatwave an important card. And you can, maybe play one of the luck cards and the move card and something like that to keep up with it. And that's pretty much for Squirtle, I guess. And for Nilfgaard, well, Nilfgaard has plenty of answers actually for Keltullis, but it's not an easy win at all. You need, the Nilfgaard players should really play careful. Right now, this is the most popular Nilfgaard deck, and this deck has poisons all over the place, but the opponent will veil them. I mean, if you poison them, they're gonna put veil on it, but I mean, there are only 3 charges. So when you're playing Nilfgaard, I mean, make sure that the opponent uses their leader charges and they don't have anything left, maybe probably on the last round. And also, if you are running this deck, we have Cupbearer to purify the Cave Troll. Do not use it on anything else. Other than that, we have Yennefer's Invocation for, I mean, I would really recommend using Invocation on Keltullis and Purify on Cave Troll, and try to keep up with other engines, because I mean, Invocation is pretty much your only answer to Keltullis. But remember, I mean, if you invocate Keltullis, you should play the Keltullis on your range row. Do not play it on melee row, as I said earlier. Other than that, this deck is running lots of spies. And this Duchess Informant is kind of useless against Keltullis, because Keltullis isn't running units, and their units are mostly gold. So pretty much the only unit you can copy is Wild Hound, and that unit is kind of worthless, so you should definitely mulligan away the Informant, because that card will not be useful. But Emissary will be useful for you, because I mean, you can boost your own units. I mean, they have Toll Punish, but this deck creates a lot of Toll units, and again, for Keltullis opponent, that could be a problem. I mean, they can remove a couple of your units, and then after a while, if you're playing especially 4 Joachims, I mean, they're not going to be able to keep up with that insane amount of points. And sometimes they will have to use their Heat Wave on a Toll unit, and then your Masquerade Ball will be secure. So I think this matchup is favored for Nilfgaard. And other Nilfgaard decks are pretty much similar, because I mean, all of them are running Invocation, and some of them are also running Lux. And well, they can't veil everything, so some of your Lux will stay on the board. So I guess that's pretty good. And I'm not gonna talk about Colgrim decks, guys. I think that deck is kind of memey, and I don't think it will stay alive for a while. And so let's move to another faction. For monsters, well, Araka Swarm. This is actually a pretty good matchup because of the leader ability again, because you will be spawning lots of drones, and those drones are, just for food for Keltullis. And, if they're only 1 or 2 powered, that's no problem for a Swarm player, but they're running Forktail for that, just for Araka Swarm deck. And if they use Forktail on time, I mean, you're going to be in trouble. So that's why, I mean, you need to plan really carefully. Do not use all your leader charges, because, I mean, you may need them to play with, let's say, other boost cards and stuff. Your Yrden could be valuable here. Heatwave is valuable. Some decks are running like this Predatory Dive. That is, again, invaluable here. I mean, those are pretty good answers for that. Parasite is great against Beast, so save that for Beast. So this deck is, again, a pretty good matchup. But again, Forktail will be the deciding solution who wins or not. Other monster decks. Well, if you're running a Point Slam deck, you probably won't have any answers to Keltullis, and Keltullis will destroy your board. So, I mean, you could produce a lot of points, But if Keltullis hits the board and I mean they gain card advantage, you could definitely lose to that. If there is a mirror matchup, if you're also running Keltullis, well, those decks are really difficult and painful to watch and play, in my opinion. Well, most of the times, both of the players will be playing their Keltullis on range row because their strategy is the same. They won't have many units on the board. So I guess the player who draws more goals than the other will probably win the round, win the game. For Northern Realms, well, Northern Realms is currently running either Swarm decks or, let's say, Shield Wall decks, and maybe some Commando decks and so on. If you're running a control-heavy deck, you will have lots of answers, actually. So that is a really good matchup. But right now, Northern Realms is, if you're running a Shield Wall deck, Northern Realms will struggle against other decks. And that's why, I mean, Keltullis is favored against Northern Realms in some cases. But if you're looking at this classic deck, I mean, still they haven't fixed this problem, by the way. I mean, dueling units will be nightmare. For Keltullis player, Bloody Baron is nightmare. You can reset and duel their units and so on. So I think this is a pretty good matchup. But the other deck, the Witcher's deck, there are many versions of it, but I mean, most of them are running a list like this. This deck does not have answers. The only answer is the luck unit, and that is definitely not let's say, dependable answer because of the Carapace leader ability. Geralt of Rivia could be huge. Yrden could be really valuable here. But I mean, they only respond to certain units. But they have huge points potential. They can produce a lot of points. This deck really plays well on short rounds. So if the Keltullis player tries to bleed this deck, he could have trouble. I mean, their Ozrel may not be enough to win the game. So I think this is kind of 50-50 here. I mean, both sides could be advantageous. I think it depends on who starts the game. The player with the blue coin will be favorable here. Because, I mean, they will have the chance to build their engines and, make more points than the opponent, and then bleed the opponent in second round. Anyway, so I think that's about it for Northern Realms. And for Syndicate, right now, Lined Buckets is the most popular deck in the game right now, the Crimes deck. There are different versions of it. Some of them are running Heatwave, some of them are not. The Heatwave version is naturally more advantageous compared to other versions. And they are running a lot of damage cards, but not enough toll punish cards. Bloody Good Fun could be valuable here. But, I mean, if you have a lot of coins in the bank, use Bloody Fun and add that amount of coins. It is possible to deal with Keltullis with only Bloody Good Fun. But the Defender is a problem. This deck isn't running Purify. It is possible to use Kurt here, but Kurt could be bad against other decks. So maybe setting up Tunnel Drill could be helpful to get rid of the Defender. Well, I mean, this deck is overall more powerful than Keltullis, but the pilot of the deck should be really careful and play around Keltullis cards, and I think it's possible to win against Keltullis. And but again, I mean, if they're running Heatwave, things will get much easier for you. But Keltullis player will have answers for most of your threats, so keep that in mind. And what about other Syndicate decks? Well, if you're running Passiflora, let me check if I have a Passiflora deck here. Yeah, this one is, I guess. Well, this one actually has some toll punish here with Heat Wave and Poisons and stuff. Poisons won't work much because of the Veil leader ability. But other than that, having Heat Wave, Flying Redanian is really valuable here. Also in Crimes deck. But well, this deck will have lots of coin and engines and stuff, so Flying Redanian will be again a sacrifice for Keltullis. So the Keltullis actually will lose its value if the Flying Redanian keeps coming back every turn. So in some cases, we see Keltullis player heat waving Flying Redanian, and that's really not a bad move actually. That could really work well in their favor. So keep that in mind. Redanian is really helpful against Keltulus. Other than that, we have Lieutenant Van Hurst. Van Hurst is also producing tokens every turn. So those tokens again can be great food for Kelly. So I think this is not a bad matchup at all. And if the Keltulus player can't deal with passive flora and can't heat wave it, it is possible, I mean, to win the game easily. Okay, so I guess that's about it. Did I talk about every faction here? It looks that way. So as you see, Keltullis is a really strong deck, and it is not a tier 1 deck, but if you're playing against Keltullis, I mean, if I'm playing against Keltullis, I feel, let's say, stressful, because they are really oppressing deck. Because, I mean, sometimes you play one thing and they kill it, and so on, and they have answers to everything. And while they're doing that, they're also building their own engine. It is difficult and it is stressful, but at the end of the game, if you win that game, you'll feel great about it. So it's as if, you know, you fought a really impossible battle or something like that. So that's the fun of it, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna show you some footage from a couple of games that I played earlier, maybe a month or two ago. I think they're not recent, but one of them is I guess after the nerf. So I hope that they will help you as well, and see you at the end of the video. Let's start with our first footage. This is me playing Syndicate Hidden Cache, and this is before Line Pockets was popular, and Keltulus deck didn't receive a nerf, so Siri Dash also received Veil. So keep that in mind. Okay, so this is my mulligan here. I mean, I own, as you see, passive flora here, a lot of goals here. Having Ornamency is great in the first round, and this lieutenant will be especially great against Keltulus, and also this guy. I mean, could be really helpful. So that, I mean, as you see, there are several engines, and if the opponent plays, I have the Purify ready. So this looks like a pretty good hand, actually. I have two Spanders, and I think I can get away with one of that. And as I said, this could be really good against Keltos, so I threw it out. I also got another engine in Adriano, but I will probably not playing it in the first round with Fist deck. So I decided to get away with it and received another poison, which could be really good. And I'm on red coin. And the opponent is playing on blue coin, and this is the ideal scenario for them, but I mean, playing on red coin could be helpful here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use Kalkstein here and purify the defender. And that puts my opponent is in a really awkward position here. They can play Siri Dash here, which they do without hesitation, and puts Veil on her, which means that I cannot poison her. But as you see, I have Heat Wave ready in my hand. I don't even need to Oneiromancer for that. And that's really good to know. But I mean, there's no reason to play it right away. Because as you see, there's a 3 timer on her. I can play it anytime I want. And if I can somehow win on even here, that would be amazing. And I decide to play MK here and generate some coins. Because as you see there, I mean, a lot of gold cards here. What I'm trying to plan is, you know, get their ship out and maybe use a bronze spander here. It's been a while since I played this game, so I don't remember what I did. Okay, so the opponent saw that I didn't do anything about that Siri dash. So the opponent plays Foglet and probably will consume it the turn later, which means that I cannot fist stack it. But I can always, poison the defender, but I don't want to do that. As you see, I play the urchins and then gain 2 coins from MK, and I have the flying retain in here. We're both on 7 cards, and I cannot win on even right now. The opponent actually is making a risky choice here because he thinks that I will play Philippa here because I have 9 coins and I can easily steal Siri Dash here. So let me check. Yeah, 9 coins, so 9 power. So it is possible to steal her. So uses one of the leader charge so that I don't steal her, but this actually is great for me because I have the heat wave ready in my hand, and uses adrenaline rush on the foglet at the back row. I heat wave her, but the reason probably my opponent did that is I mean, even if I heat wave Siri, he doesn't want me to stay ahead of him. That's why he probably used Adrenaline Rush back row. But that's also really a good poison target here. Actually, I'm probably making a mistake here. And I should have even spent more and increased the power of street urchins so that I finish the turn here with 20 points. But no matter, the opponent keeps playing the Andraga Warrior and consumes that huge unit. So this is a fantastic poison target, but the deficit is too much, 9. But I have a spender here, so what I can do is maybe, first take the target and spend like crazy. Or just play Sea Jackal and uh, with Horde ability, I mean, I will get more points from my coins. So there are a couple of options here. I can use Oneiromancer to get something out. Instead, I use Jackal. And what I did is right. I would have done it the same. I tempoed ahead with Jackal, and also MK is producing coins. I'm definitely threatening to win uneven here. And what's even better is I can poison the unit in the back row. The opponent plays Oneiromancer into Yigern. Well, that sucks for Syndicate because the current version of Syndicate doesn't run in damage spells, so I need 4 damage there. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna poison the Draga Warrior in the back row, but that's not gonna be enough for me to pass the opponent. But at least, I mean, I forced the Jägern out in the first round. Unfortunately, I mean, can I pass here? 33. Well, it was possible. Maybe I should have went for that. And now I'm giving a pass to my opponent. And let's see if he's gonna take the pass or, keep playing. If he keeps playing, he's gonna definitely lose uneven, but I could be bluffing, or another option could be to use Veil on the Endraga Warrior there. If he uses Veil, I can't poison that unit second time, but which means that uh, another leader ability. So the opponent manages to not lose uneven, and I win the first round. So I think this is a pretty good example to how to play against Kelly decks. Well, the thing I was lucky to have all the answers in my hand in the first round. I mean, having Purify, having a Heat Wave, or a Toll Punish. So I was successfully able to deal with Siri Dash, Defender, and Yeager also came out. So I mean, the only threats are remaining are Keltullis and Nithral, and Beast, obviously. And it is possible to steal Beast with Philippa. So it is hopeful for the remaining rounds, as you see. Okay, so let's move to another game then. Okay, so in the second video, I'm going to be showing you a final round example. So the first video was, how to play the first round against Kelly. In this one, I'm going to be playing a long round against Kelly and how to deal with Keltullis. And I managed to win the first round, and I felt confident enough that I can win a long round against Keltullis. So I preferred the dry pass, and then I am playing a long round with 10 cards here. And the leader ability is actually Enslave here. So thanks to Hefty Helga, I was able to win the first round with Hefty Helga with tactics and so on. So what I'm trying to plan to do here is win the final round with Masquerade Ball, but obviously Masquerade Ball is going to be heat waved. But as you see, I have plenty of good cards remaining. So I kept the Defender in my hand. She was in my hand in the first round. I didn't use her, so because that's really crucial. I look for a better card here in these mulligans, but unfortunately I ended up with a Duchess Informant, which is probably a brick in my hand, because there is no way that I will find a bronze target in the final round. Okay, so my defender is ready. It's also nice that, I don't have to use the gold purify card, so that's really a cheap answer to Cave Troll. And as you see in my hand, I don't have Masquerade Ball, but I have Roderick to seek out the ball. So that won't be a problem. The problem would be Heat Wave, obviously. As you see in my deck, the only gold card is actually Masquerade Ball. Okay, so here comes the Beast. The Beast is an excellent lock target. At the same time, I could be using luck on something else, but now having a looking back at the games here, I think I should have locked it because the opponent still has 3 leader charges, so they will obviously uh, prevent the locks from happening with leaders. So what I decided to do was even something more greedy, play Tourney Joust on the beast and then steal it with my leader ability because I cannot steal beasts with 6 power and force my opponent to play a removal on beast. Now having a look at it, I don't like it. I should have locked it. But the opponent could have, purify the Taskmaster, and if he purifies it, then that's gonna be more difficult to steal. Okay, so Parasite was used on the beast here. Still no target for Informant, so what can I play here? I will probably play Masquerade Ball here with Roderick. Well, Breathens isn't useful here because the version of the deck I'm running does not have emissaries. So Breathens needs a bronze target here. Usurper could be an option, uh, but I think playing Masquerade Ball seems a sound decision here. So I'm glad I went for it. And obviously, I'm expecting a heat wave here. But spoiler alert, my scenario won't get heat wave by the opponent. Instead, he plays Keltullis. And right now, as you see, both of the players have 3 units on the board. But obviously, Nilfgaard player will have more units at the end of the round, so it could be a good idea to play it if you don't have heat wave. And I assume my opponent doesn't have heat wave. And Veils both units, and I think it's a good time for invocation. And my opponent had to use the leader ability, otherwise, I could have easily locked the Keltullis. Having Veil on Cave Troll was a bit excessive, And as you see, the last uh, charge was used on Siridash. So I think this game was uh, a week after the nerf. The opponent either forgot about uh, the change, or I don't know why he did that. Maybe just he just wanted to protect her from the damage spells. I don't know, but I mean that veil was not a good call. So I just go ahead and lock it. So instead of locking the beast, I was able to lock Siri. But again, I mean, I'm gonna poison her anyway, so didn't matter much. So that's the only viable option for poisoning. But having invocation was huge in hand, so none of my units were destroyed. I think my opponent was a bit. He rushed a bit with playing Kelly. He should have, played Siri Dash before playing Kelly. I don't know why he did that. Because I mean, whenever you play Kelly, Keltullis, I mean, you expect a unit to get destroyed. I mean, we had the same number of units, so that was kind of premature. Okay, so here comes Himmler's Wrath, and my Dame gets destroyed, and if I play a second Aristocrat, I can poison the Siridash. Unfortunately, I still can't play either Bretons or the Duchess Informant, so those two cards are pretty much dead. What I do is just discard the Duchess Informant. Because, I don't want to give 1 point to my opponent. I could have played the Usurper actually, but maybe I didn't want to give big targets to my opponent, so that's why I did that. So probably after playing this deck, I changed it a bit, and Emissary is kind of necessary evil. So it is risky to play Brathens without Emissary. Now I play Joachim, poison Siridash, and put, as you see, Keltullis on range row, so that she doesn't destroy my own units. I mean, with 17 power, that's a huge threat. I'm ahead by 15 points. The opponent has only Nithral and Osrel left, and probably didn't draw Nithral. And surprising development. Keltullis is being moved to melee row, and now it's going to work against me, which is really bad. Yeah, as you see, Brathens is again only a 5-point card here. Well, I think it's time to sacrifice some units, because I can't do anything about it. So maybe that's the reason my opponent played Keltullis earlier. So poor Meno gets sacrificed to the dragon. As you see, I have 8 units and the opponent has 4 units. Oneiromancy. So apparently my opponent didn't prefer to play Heatwave, despite having Oneiromancy in hand. He plays Azrael for 14 points, eating Ygern in the graveyard. And I think it's best that I keep the second Joachim. Instead, I play the Duchess Informant, and at least it's a spy, and the Usurper gets boosted by 1. So I'm ahead by 9 points, and let's see what the final card is. I mean, it's probably Spores or something like that, although I know what it is, because I watched this video earlier. And surprisingly, it's Heatwave. My opponent, for some odd reason, didn't use Heatwave on my Masquerade Ball. Maybe being overconfident or cocky or something like that. Anyway, I just, there's enough points to pass my opponent. I'm gonna play Joachim once again, even it's the worst, powered card in the hand. That's gonna be enough. Okay, so at the end of the day, as you see, if you're playing Nilfgaard and have all the answers to the Kelly deck, you could always go for long round. So because bleeding the opponent could have been disastrous for me, because the short round of Kelly is stronger than Nilfgaard in my opinion. That's why I did that choice. So I think those two videos will be not more than enough, because this video I think got too long. I talked a lot in the beginning, and even though I'm not receiving many views in this channel compared to my Turkish version of this channel, I hope that these deck guides, these defense deck guides, are being helpful for you guys. And I really appreciate the viewers that are watching this and giving me positive feedback about it. And if you're really enjoying what I'm doing, please make sure to hit the like button and please subscribe if you haven't done so already. And see you in another duello video, and bye bye.